Hi, Dean. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. But I'm wondering about the Governor's Journal. It's about a publication about a year old. Is that correct?
Yep, it is exactly a year old.
And how did that start? Whose idea was that? Who funds it?
It was my idea. I funded it. It's a startup. I have, as you can see from my background, I have a background in journalism and in state government, and I have always believed that the governors aren't covered adequately from a national perspective. They're covered in each one of their states, but nobody sits back and looks at the whole picture and tries to discern, what are they doing that is similar? What is somebody doing in Wisconsin that might benefit somebody in Florida? That kind of approach. So it's something that I've thought about for a long time. I recently relocated to Washington, D.C., so I decided to take this opportunity to start the website and see if I could make it work.
In terms of this award for Governor Walker, how was that determined? Is there a board of directors is this just you deciding? Did someone pay you to produce the information? How did that come about?
Yeah, I'm the sole employee of Governor's Journal. I'm the managing editor. I have had a couple of people contribute articles over the last year, but it's just me. And in terms of who funds it, I seek out advertisers. I have one sponsor right now, but nobody funds me from a political perspective. Nobody says we will give you, a certain amount of money a year, and we expect you to report on these issues. I'm completely independent. I'm the managing editor, and that's the way I set it up. I set it up as a one-person operation for the most part. If I am ever successful enough to make this a real profitable venture, I will expand probably, but right now it's a one-person operation. And getting to the selection of Governor Walker, it's really simple. The criteria is which governor of the 50 that I've covered in the last year has had the most influence on the national debate. And it doesn't take very long to get to Governor Walker. If you sit down with a list of the 50 governors and go through the list, there are a few that received a lot of national attention that you might consider in the top 5, but there really aren't any that match Governor Walker in terms of how many, the impact he has had on his own state, for good or for bad. The number of people outside his state talking about him, the national coverage he's received, the amount of times that governors in other states are either asked to take sides with him or against him, how many times governors in other states are asked to compare themselves to him, and the fact that he's subject of a recall next year really just further cements that idea in my mind, because except for the presidential election next year, you could argue that the recall campaign in Wisconsin is going to be the biggest national political issue. There are people from all over the country who are going to be investing their time and resources in either defeating or helping to keep in office Governor Walker.
That is all correct. And so as you wrote this story announcing that he had won, this was just more of an editorial then?
It was simply an attempt to say who is the governor who had the most influence in 2011, and the runners-up were Governor Cuomo of New York and Governor Malloy of Connecticut. And just to help you understand the Walker decision, Governor Cuomo has gotten a lot of attention nationally, but it's all focused on what he accomplished in New York. What he did, except for the gay marriage issue, hasn't really had an impact beyond New York's borders. And Governor Malloy, he got a lot of positive coverage because of his approach to government, which was seen as kind of middle of the road, not highly partisan. But again, that has more of an impact on Connecticut than it has on the country as a whole. Governor Walker, whether he planned it this way or not, and I'm not necessarily convinced he planned it this way, took an approach that ended up provoking a national debate. And, almost every state, even the states led by Democrats, had some form of an effort to reform union benefits and pensions. And in each one of those states, when the debate was taking place, there were comparisons made to Wisconsin. Either people said, we shouldn't do this because then we'll be just like Wisconsin, or we should do this because look at what Wisconsin is doing and isn't it great? That's basically where I'm coming from.
Okay. And
I know another controversial aspect of what I wrote is at the end when I said that he could end up being a martyr. Well, just to explain that, even if he loses, he could end up winning because he is being held up by national Republicans as a model of what a Republican governor can do and accomplish. Republicans think what he's doing is great. He's being, invited to Washington, D.C. to talk to the largest annual gathering of conservative Republicans in the country, and he's giving the keynote address. And everybody there is going to love him. They're going to work for him. And if he loses, they'll invite him back next year, and they'll say, you went down for the right reasons, and we're still with you. So that's what I meant by even if he loses, he still wins because he is still going to be a hero to that segment of the Republican Party.
Right. And you see the other side of it is there's a lot of people on the ground here reporting the whole other side, which is that there's a lot of criminal activity going on here. So while all that's all really sweet and well and good and, politics as usual out there, we've been documenting crime after crime after crime. There are lawsuits. There are people pleading with him not to do things because they're against the law. And he's continuing to move forward.
Yes.
And
part of it. Again, if you kind of compare it to, this Governor of the Year, it's not even an award, it's just an observation, to, for instance, Time Magazine's Person of the Year, or when they used to call it Man of the Year. It's the Man of the Year for good or bad. It's not saying that what Governor Walker is doing is absolutely right. I make no judgment about that. I'm just observing that what he's doing is having the largest national impact.
Yeah. No, I see that.
And by the way, as far as I know that lots of people had never heard of Governor's Journal before this particular column, but if you go back through my archives, you will see that I've written some very critical pieces of Governor Walker, and I've done some, reporting and commentary on the investigation that's stemming from his 2010 campaign. So, I haven't been a Walker booster. I think I've kind of played it down the middle, and I do have a background working for Republicans in Connecticut, but again, if you go back through the archive of the website, you will find that I've been very critical of several Republican governors, and I don't think that they think I'm necessarily on their side. In fact, I know they don't think I'm on their side. So.
Yeah.